Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you very warm welcome to this press briefing, of which our topic today is findings of the preliminary assessment of MV Estonia. For clarity's sake, we will be doing this whole event in English, and I wish for the journalists to stick to English at the end if you have questions for the entire team here. My name is Tina Bieber, and I am the head of public affairs of the Safety Investigation Authority, and I will be moderating this event. Next to me, and I am very happy to introduce this gentleman, on my left, Mr. Jörgen Sackau. He's the investigator in charge of the Swedish Accident Investigation Authority. Next to him, Mr. Jonas Bäckstrand, the chair of investigations of the Swedish Safety Investigation Authority. And then right after him, to the left, Mr. Märt Ots, director of the Estonian Safety Investigation Authority and also representative of the flag state. Next to him, Mr. Tauri Roospuu, investigator in charge of the Estonian Safety Investigation Authority. And finally, my colleague from Finland, Mr. Risto Haimila, our now retired chief marine investigator. Before giving the floor to these gentlemen, just very brief housekeeping. We are safety professionals after all, so you will see the exits marked by green. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we'll exit through those doors. The meeting point is situated right outside, and I need to stress this. Please make sure to wait at the meeting point so that we can check that everybody is accounted for should we get to that. The presentations will take approximately 40 minutes, and we will have plenty of time for questions and answers after that, and I will guide you through the Q&A session then. And I will please ask you to wait with your questions until we get through the presentations. With that, I will give the floor to Märt. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I will start with the objectives. Well, and objectives to start is the 2020 Discovery documentary. And on 28th of September 2020, new video footage was published. And on 2nd October in the same year, the OJK, Estonian Safety Investigation Bureau, initiated the preliminary assessment of the new findings with the assistance of colleagues from Sweden and Finland. Well, and on 23rd of January 2023, the intermediate report of the preliminary assessment was published. Please. Well, and now to speak about the objectives of the preliminary assessment. First, to identify the cause of penetrating deformations to the hull of Estonia, seen in the new video footage aired in September 2020 by Monster Media Group Limited. Secondly, to assess whether the new information gives reason to revise the conclusions presented in the JIC final report. Third, to assess which new investigative measures should be taken, if any. And last but not least, to assess whether the safety investigation of the sinking of Estonia should be reopened. Thank you. That's my presentation about objectives.
Then it's my turn if I have...
Yeah, please, Jonas, go ahead.
Does it work? Thank you. When it comes to preparatory work, the planning for this work that has been performed, the decision to carry out on-site surveys was taken late 2020. A prerequisite was that the national legislation in Finland and Sweden was amended in order to be able to perform such surveys. And these amendments went into force the 1st of July 2021. A number of procurements have been made, and we have cooperated with other authorities. That has been crucial. And just to mention a few, the Geotechnical and Geological Institutes of Sweden and Estonia, Stockholm University, the Tallinn University of Technology, the HSVA in Hamburg, just to mention a few of those that we have cooperated with in this. Most of the surveys that we did had to be done when the visibility was as good as possible in the Baltic Sea. But we also wanted a stable weather conditions, if possible. And the preference was then to perform these surveys in May to July. And certain surveys also had to be made sequentially, meaning that one was a prerequisite for the next in order to get as good results as possible. Already from the beginning, we wanted to have a photo documentation of the wreck, and we wanted to create a photogrammetric 3D model of MV Estonia. But we needed to perform a pre-survey first in order to have more reliable information about the site. And you can see on the screen here some of the surveys that we have done. It was a pre-survey in July 2021. We made the photo documentation and the photogrammetry in 2022. Car deck filming and bow ramp recovery in 2023. A surrounding survey in 2023 as well. And then verifications of findings with ROV in 2024. So in all, we made 6 surveys at the site. We have interviewed survivors and others concerned by the accident. We have reviewed documentation from the time, made numerical assessments, calculations, and studies that have been performed in parallel. The final report contains not only information about the work we have done, but also a comprehensive list of previous surveys and studies that has been made during the years concerning MV Estonia. And I would like to say that it's fair to say that MV Estonia is now one of the most studied wrecks in the world. Thank you.
All right, Howard.
Good afternoon. I will give you a brief overview about the seabed and the wreck condition. Starting with the seabed. So we have presented those results of different surveys before as well, but I would like to highlight the main findings. So in this picture, you can see the wreck as it is today, lying on the starboard side. And only the visible part of the wreck is shown in here. It does not show the part which is inside the sediments. In this picture also, the soft sediment layer is removed. You can only see in this bronze color the bedrock, which is a hard solid rock. And if you look at this picture, you can see that in the midship section of the wreck, the bedrock is very close by to the wreck. If you look at the bow and at the stern, the wreck is not in contact with the bedrock. So in forward and aft part, there is several and even tens of meters of soft sediments, but in the midship, the bedrock outcrops. The previous image is not on assumption-based picture. It is based on the sub-bottom profiling, which is basically acoustic method, which like an ultrasound looks into the sediment. So the signal will penetrate the soft sediments and will get reflection from the solid hard bedrock. Also, this is verified by many samples taken from the seabed, including 1990s and also the surveys done during our preliminary assessment. On the figure right side, you can see the locations of different samples taken from the seabed. And the most important of those, I would say, is the drilled sample from the bedrock, which we did in 2023. This one was taken from the same midship section where the bedrock outcrops. This sample is concluded to be gneiss, which is a billion years old rock, basically. Now, shifting over to the wreck condition. We have studied all the material available from the 1990s. As you might know, in the mid-90s, there were operations to cover the wreck. This work was suspended, but many surveys were done, and also the execution phase of the covering operation started. Today, the wreck is not covered, so it was terminated before they reached to the wreck. But from those surveys done during the 90s and those surveys we did during our surveys, we have been able to reconstruct the different and previous positions of the wreck during the decades. So starting from today, in this picture, there are 5 theoretical models of the ship placed into the same position and orientation as they were in the corresponding surveys. So the most southward, or the in this picture the lowest one, indicates the wreck position today. So if we move up, the next position originates from 2006, when Finnish Maritime Administration conducted the General Hydrographic Survey. Then we have a reconstructed position from the very late 1995 and the beginning of 96. And also we have the position from the December 1994, which is known as the Rockwater surveys. And the topest position is a theoretical one, as there is a depression in the seabed, which indicates that the vessel had been in contact with the seabed there. It's aligned with this trench and contact depression. We do not know whether the vessel rested in that position or shifted immediately after to some next phase. But all those 4 positions that are lower, those are documented and surveyed position, fact-based positions. And what we can see from that is that the wreck has significantly shifted on the seabed during the decades. The shift in the stern part is minimal, but in the forward part, it's significant. And now I will shift to another image where you can see the sectional cut of the midship sections, which basically illustrates the same positions. So here the dashed line indicates the first theoretical position aligned by the depression on the seabed. The first position, which is aligned by the survey data, is marked with this black solid line. This is December 1994. So already in May 95, the vessel had shifted downhill and remained at least in that position till the September 1997. Now the dashed yellow line indicates the position where the wreck was, where the side damage deformations match the bedrock shape the most best way. So it's a little bit downhill than the September 97 position. And then by the year 2006, the vessel had already shifted more downhill. And today the vessel is resting in a position which is indicated with pink color. So what we can conclude about this is that during the 1990s, the side damage which was revealed in 2020 was not visible or observable during the 90s. The side damage was revealed after the 2006, so where the vessel had shifted and rotated downhill. So it was not possible to see the damage as the wreck was lying on that bedrock formation. So the side damage itself, which basically initiated the process. In this picture, the outcropping bedrock is marked in here. You can see quite vertical and sharp edge of the bedrock in here. In here is the so-called forward penetrating damage. It means opening in the wreck's hull. And there is also opening in the aftward edge of the damage, where also is a penetrating damage. The aftward damage is part of the side plating and structure torn outwards. Also, the similar effect is seen near the forward damage, where also a part of the side damage is torn outward, as the other part of the damage is dents and deformations that are inside the original shape. And this all approximately maximum 25-meter area in length is deformed, and in every end there is penetrating damage. And this very well corresponds to this bedrock formation in here. Those parts that are outside the direction from the damage is probably the result of the wreck movement during the years. As the side structure have been deformed, some parts of the structure have get stuck behind the bedrock, and later movement has torn those parts out from the ship structure. Also, there is a metallic beam in here which indicates that the damage has occurred in this very location. Otherwise, the steel bar separately resting in here would not have been in close by of this site damage. Here is another view of the site damage. You can see that the bedrock formation is outcropping in here. It has a very thin sediment layer on top of it, but under that is a solid rock. Now turning to the calculations and numerical assessment of the site damage. So this picture illustrates what happens to the wreck structure when the vessel meets the bedrock non-deformable rock only by its own weight. So there is no additional descent velocity or acceleration due to the like a falling wreck to the sea bottom, only just the wreck own weight on top of the bedrock formation. And this generates very similar damage pattern and shape as we see in reality. So it concludes that the vessel own weight is enough to create such a penetrating deformations if the seabed configuration is not even. If it has a very sharp formations, it will go through the side plating, which has happened in the real deformation. So also briefly about the bow collapse and sinking processes. The visor was recovered in the 90s, and in 2023 we also recovered the bow ramp from the wreck. Both are laser scanned, and three-dimensional digital models have been made. And in this image you can see the visor in red and the ramp in yellow. And this configuration confirms that the visor has been detached in the very beginning of the accident when the vessel was still in upright position. This is confirmed by the large dent on the front side of the visor that collided with the bulbous bow of the vessel. Also, the full opening of the bow ramp is confirmed by the underside deformations of the ramp, which collided with the forepeak deck, a triangular structure which was supporting the visor. So it is confirmed by physical evidence that the visor of the vessel has been detached and the ramp has been fully open in the beginning of the accident. Also, we have conducted a numerical calculation-based simulation of the collapse of the bow structure. This visualization shows in a full simulation sequence how the bow construction in reality could have collapsed. So when applying the sea or wave loads to the visor, if they are exceeding the structural strength, the visor side locks and bottom lock will fail quite in the same time. Then the visor hinges broke next, and then the visor will be held only by the hydraulic actuators you can see in here. Eventually, in the seaways, the visor is and its hydraulic actuators are pulled from the deck arrangement, and the visor will hit the ramp and turn the ramp also open. If the visor detaches, then the ramp completely opens and it will get deformation from the contact with the forepeak deck and bulbous This study also helped to describe the several other deformations which is seen on the visor and on the ramp, which were not fully described in earlier studies. Also, this study confirms that the railings of the ramp were torn off during the failure sequence. In 2021, the bow ramp was found detached from the wreck. In the 90s, we had the knowledge that the ramp remained to the wreck, although it was severely damaged. Numerical assessment have also concluded that due to the structural deformations and corrosion affecting the wreck during the decades could get the ramp in such condition that it will detach from the wreck by its own weight. Now, when the bow is open, the water ingress to the car deck is free. When the car deck is flooded, the water is divided by the center casing, which is basically a staircase, which includes the stairs and elevators going to the upper decks and decks below. This center casing had sliding doors, which are not watertight, neither weathertight. Those are classified as fire doors, so they could not hold the water pressure. That's the reason why small amounts of water could get under the car deck, and which was also observed by the survivors. Now, when there are a lot of water on the car deck, it eventually will flow to the one side, which will create a remarkable heel or list to the vessel. The phenomenon is called the free surface effect. This creates a rapid and remarkable heel, which is also described by the survivors. But after that, the vessel took a turn to the port side, meaning to the left. In this image, you can see the location where the visor was lost. The vessel proceeded for some time on straight course, but then eventually made a turn to port side. When the turning maneuver was executed, the bow opening was not open to the direct seaways, so the flooding for a while was smaller than in the beginning of the accident, where the bow opening was heading to the head seas. So that period of time after the initial healing and when the turn had been executed allowed about few hundred people to evacuate to the upper weather deck. So, but the turn after it was executed, the vessel had a list enough that the side openings which led to the car deck and to the compartments below the car deck, these openings on the outer shell were submerged. So in this image, the red channels are the ventilation channels leading down below the car deck where the machinery spaces were. Also, it couldn't be excluded that the ventilation shafts were already damaged by the shifting cargo. The yellow ones show the channels for the water to go inside the car deck from the outer shell. And the figure below shows all the locations of those fire doors or elevator shafts from where the water could go below the car deck in the beginning and also in the later stage of the sinking process. When the vessel was laying on a side, eventually the stern part was more flooded and the vessel hit the seabed with the stern part. We also commissioned flooding and sinking simulations of different scenarios for the Estonia. The result of that is that the most probable and possible scenario is when the vessel bow is opened and the water ingress starts from there until it finds additional openings for the water ingress. That fits very well into the time frame and all other corresponds to all other evidence we have considered. When the vessel would have only had side damage, the healing process would have been much more slower, as you can see on the image or animation in the middle. So it is a rare occasion where this side damage could have sunken the vessel. So the side damage is too small to create such healing and flooding, leading to the full foundering of the vessel. And also we studied the scenario when those bow opening and side damage are happening at the same time. This will sink the vessel, but in more shorter time frame that it's known considering all other available evidence. So the side damage will accelerate the sinking process, and that is then concluded that this was not the case. So the side damage only and the side damage plus the open bow are extremely unlikely scenarios that could have happened. Thank you, and I will give the screen to my colleagues.
Thank you, Tauri. Jürgen, over to you.
Yes. Thank you very much. During the JIC investigation, publishing their intermediate report in April 95 and their final report in December 97, all survivors were not interviewed by the JIC safety investigators. So when starting this preliminary assessment, we decided at an early stage to include interviews of all survivors. Since the interview was fully voluntary, we decided to only ask once. We do know that many of the survivors do not wish this casing being brought up again. The reasons the decision was based upon were the following. Most of the survivors were interviewed by the police, but not interviewed by the investigation team. Police interrogations were not always considered conducted on neutral grounds, and the new information about the side damage was not available. Questions that were not topical or asked for when the JIC investigation was done are now hot stuff, and that was the 4 reasons that we wanted to interview the survivors. So we can see from this picture that of the 137 survivors, 134 were interviewed in 1994. Among them, 48 were interviewed in some follow-up action by JIC or organized or on behalf of JIC. However, we realized that it was not at all the investigation team that conducted all these interviews. Out of the 137 survivors, we searched those still alive and ended up with 118 found and asked. Of those 118, 68 accepted an interview. The rate is almost 60%, which we consider high, actually. Of the 68 interviewed by us, one was one of the 3 not interviewed at all in the 90s. He has never been interviewed before. So the analysis is based upon the answers from these 68, also including their statements from the 90s. However, all interviews from the 90s are not included, and it should be noted that this material is not to be handled as statistics. We have to take into account that generally individual witness statements are often considered not being very reliable. We also have to realize that these witnesses' memories may in a high degree be influenced both by the time that has passed, but also by other witness statements, conspiracy theories, media reporting, and so on. They are sometimes very much contradictory and illustrate a large variety of descriptions. However, there are red threads that may be identified, indicating something. The most important results of these interviews and the performed analysis are presented here. Regarding military transports, we have 2 witnesses claiming that there were military trucks loaded and even escorted on board. Both witnesses claim that this was in the final stage of the loading process. None of these witnesses has mentioned anything about this during interviews from the 90s, which is not surprising at all. Military transports were not an issue at that time. However, we have altogether 9 witnesses claiming otherwise. These are independent of each other, and 4 has a specific personal memory connected to the final stage of the loading of the vessel. 1, arriving very late, was arguing with the crew about lashing. Another had to fill his tank before loading and was thus also very late. The third one had an argument with the customs if his car could leave at all, and when loading they had to push the car sideways to get it in the right position. And the 4th was not even a passenger. He was ashore, wanting to have a place on board for him and his truck, but was refused. Still, he was watching the final loading, very disappointed. He has never been interviewed before. All of these witnesses are sure of not having seen any military trucks loaded. Hence, our conclusion is that it is unlikely that any military vehicle was loaded that evening. Still, it should be noted that we cannot tell what cargo was loaded on board, except of what the cargo manifest says. We do understand that there probably was undeclared goods on board. It could be alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, or whatever smuggled this evening. During the ROV film operations in summer 2023, we had the opportunity to make footage which to some extent show how the cargo was lashed. The first picture shows a hanging lashing, and it is the ROV turned, which makes this look like it's hanging upwards. It's not, it's hanging downwards. This second picture shows a clog close to a truck wheel. The third picture shows a storage place for lashings, now empty. And the last picture shows a storage place for lashings where the lashings are still left. These pictures has made us make the conclusion that regarding if the cargo was lashed or not, we cannot make any firm conclusion. We know that some cargo was lashed, but we cannot confirm that all cargo was lashed. Continuing with the initiation of evacuation, we found that most people heard some crashes or bangs, and at almost the same time the vessel started to list heavily and never came back again. The time for this varies among the witnesses between 1 o'clock Eastern European time and 1:30, but at least 2 witnesses have noted a specific time. One as the batteries from his clock fell out and the clock stopped. The other that the clock fell in his face from its place on the bed lamp. Altogether, we estimate the time to have been 1 o'clock, that would be midnight Swedish time, or closely after when the listing started. This is supported by the sinking process calculations that has been presented here today. So we find that the crashes or bangs are congruent with what may be expected when the visor fell off and the ramp was torn open. The testimonies about a metallic scraping sound is also congruent with the movements of the visor and ramp, and also what is expected from falling and moving cargo on car deck. Again, we can conclude that this happened very fast, and those who did not react immediately or almost immediately reduced their chances significantly to escape to the outside. Continuing with water on deck 1, that is below car deck. The JIC report has identified 22 people surviving from cabin area below car deck. We have been able to complete this figure to 25. Of these, we have interviewed 12 witnesses being in that area when the listing started. The picture shows those identified by JIC, marked with red dots, and those by us, marked with yellow dots. One yellow dot is outside the map. It's in the bottom of this picture in the middle, meaning we don't know the cabin number from that passenger. The red diamonds at the bottom of the picture are the holes or breaches in the vessel's hull and show the ends of the hull damage on the starboard side, meaning that the hull between those diamonds is heavily damaged. Of those people, we have, as mentioned, interviewed 12. 2 coming through engine workshop have not seen any water at all, though the listing was heavy when they escaped. You can see the red dots to the left in the picture in the engine control room, ECR, and they escaped through the workshop and took the emergency exit from there up to the funnel. The other 10 were in the cabin area and all of them have seen water. All of them have seen water, regardless of which watertight section they escaped from. That is meaning that water was seen also in the areas far from the damage. The amount of water is described as not very much and coming from walls, stairs, and from under the doors to car deck. No one mentions any massive flooding or a damage in the hull. Thus, these testimonies support the theory that water came from car deck and exclude any damage in the hull. And frankly, we do not believe that as many of these survivors could have survived if the holes in the hull had been there when the vessel started to list and when they escaped. We have also interviewed people about the action made by crew members during the evacuation phase. And most witnesses have seen crew members trying to organize and assist during the evacuation. One says seeing a number of uniformed men taking instructions from one of them, but next moment they were all washed away. So our conclusion is that the crew did whatever could be done to organize the evacuation. We have also some information from the interviews about the visor and bow status. At least 14 witnesses have confirmed that the bow visor was off when the vessel sank. A few were very close to the bow ramp, amongst them one claiming that he was sitting or being very close at the edge of the ramp, thus confirming it was open. He felt the air draft from the cargo hold as the water entered. A couple says that they climbed on the outside of the ramp. Our conclusion is that it is confirmed by witness statements that the visor was away. We can also conclude that since the ramp has been proven to have been fully open and later fallen back to closed position again, which is explained also here today, both witnesses saying the ramp was open and those saying it was closed may be right. We have a few observations noted as well. At least 5 witnesses have testified seeing the port stabilizer fin being extended. It has been confirmed that the stabilizer fins were used during the voyage, and since they automatically are parked or folded in when speed is reduced to a few knots, our conclusion is that they had both been extended when the listing started and automatically parked when the speed decreased. One witness was standing outside on starboard side, holding both hands on the railing when the listing started. He denies any existence of other vessels, thus denies any collision on that side. A few witnesses claim to have seen white objects in the water. This was on port side when the evacuation was ongoing. Our conclusion is that it cannot have been the visor, since it had fallen off already when the ramp was torn open, before the listing and evacuation started. Another witness claimed to have seen a dark object, presumably a vessel. The observation was, according to the witness, made by all people in the same raft. However, no one else but him says this. We now know that both stabilizer fins are parked and undamaged, which is contradictory to the theory that a collision had occurred. The starboard fin would have been damaged since the fin location is in the area where the starboard side damage is. Another conclusion is that the witness stating that he was on boat deck on starboard side when the listing started, claiming there was no vessel to collide with, contradicts the theory of a collision. And finally, we have found during the interviews that many witnesses have at start been opposing during the interview to the JIC report. But as the interview has continued, it has been clear that they actually have been opposing the confused aftermath and the decision not to bring the bodies up. There is also a strong dislike of the decision to cover the wreck in concrete, which was later stopped. Thus, a finding is that most interviewees approve of the findings of the JIC report. And the conclusion is that there has been a misunderstanding of what actually JIC should do and did, namely a safety investigation and other matters close connected to the accident. And this is what I have to present from the survivors' interviews.
Thank you. If I get my, when it comes to the major or final conclusions from our work, the visor locking system of MV Estonia failed due to the natural wave loads because the system did not have a structural safety margin for realistic wave conditions. And the visor came loose in the beginning of the accident, and the ramp opened completely before the detachment of the visor. The vessel's flooding and sinking behavior due to the opening of the bow is numerically plausible and consistent with available evidence. Calculations that we have made indicate that the side damage occurring while the vessel was still afloat is extremely unlikely. Since the accident, the wreck has remained unstable on the seabed, with its position and orientation changing several times during the decades. The wreck's starboard side is located next to outcropping bedrock. The shape of the starboard side damage closely corresponds with the underlying geological formations. A numerical assessment of the vessel's bottom contact with the seabed confirms that extensive damage occurs upon impact. There is no available evidence to suggest that the new deformation or any part of it was caused by an explosion or a collision on surface. We therefore conclude that MV Estonia sank due to the failure of the bow structure and that the new damage on the starboard side resulted from contact with the seabed. Therefore, there is no need to reopen a full-size safety investigation of the accident on the Estonia or otherwise perform further investigation measures. I would like to point out that even if the main scope for the work we've done concerns the damage on the starboard side, we have also included a chapter in the report which is a comprehensive compilation of the causes to the catastrophe. When it comes to the 1997 JIC report, there are a few differences when compared with our work. It is a conclusion of ours, based among other things on the testimonies of survivors, that the sequence of events started some 15 minutes before the time that was estimated by JIC. And furthermore, we have already presented in our interim report that we, differently from JIC, consider the vessel to have been not seaworthy due to shortcomings in design, building, approval, and certification processes. The MV Estonia should not have been operating on the Tallinn-Stockholm route.
Okay. So, now, well, by this I would like to close this session of this press conference. And I would like to thank everyone who has participated in the preliminary assessment. I would like to say that we have had a very good cooperation among 3 authorities from Sweden, Finland, and Estonia. And as it was mentioned by my good colleague Jonas Bäckstrand, MV Estonia is one of the most investigated wrecks in the globe. And I'm very confident that we have made a very detailed and scientific-based research. Of course, it took some 5 years, but we have made our final conclusions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, my apologies for exceeding our estimated time frame. I will handle the debriefing with Tauri when we get there. But with that, I would like to proceed to the Q&A part, and I will take questions from the audience here present at first. Please, if possible, stick to one question and state your name and affiliation, please. Okay, let's go with the left first. Sir. Yes, please.
Hello, Marve Riik from Estonian newspaper Õhtuleht. Earlier today, you introduced a report to the survivors of the accident and to the family members who didn't. My question is, can you comment how did they take it? Did they have any questions? Is the report enough for them?
Perhaps you can.
That depends. I think that is different for different person. But yes, it's correct that we have both in Estonia and in Sweden, we have had meetings this morning with survivors and next of kin. And the main purpose with that meeting was to provide them with the same information that we are now giving the public and the media so that they get it first. I don't think that we from our part is fully done. I think there's more questions than we had the time to answer, so there might be a following up on that. But the reactions are very individual. It's very different from person to person.
Thank you very much.
I think you had your hand raised first, sir, in the front row, please.
Thank you. Harry Lambert, Financial Times. I was at the interim press conference, so I've seen this thing develop. I have 2 questions, and I hope you'll permit me a little bit of time to read out the first one. It's very often the case that survivor testimony is summarized, often inaccurately, and so I think it's important if we could quote from it, and then I'll ask you a question about it. Here are actual quotes from multiple survivors, many of them from Deck 1, near to where any theoretical impact on the sea surface would have occurred. The sound, they say, was so piercing it made your eyes go wide. It was a sound much stronger than the waves. It didn't fit at all. It left you in no doubt you had to flee. It sounded like 2 great metal objects were crashing, screeching, and grating against one another. It felt, said one survivor, as if the ship was about to smash into 1,000 pieces. The blows were definitely different from the usual sound of crashing waves. The sounds were so strong, said another, that he knew it was not a storm wave. It was a metallic sound, almost like a shot. After the sound reoccurred, it felt as if the course of the ship had changed. It was as if the side plate of the ship had been pushed in after a strong, sharp blow at an angle to the ship. There are also 3 survivors from 1994, as your graph helpfully showed, for whom no testimony exists. I've now found testimony from one of those survivors. This is what he said in 1994. We were woken by a terrifying impact, truly frightening. I thought the ship had smashed into something. The impact was that powerful. Glass shattered all around us, he said. In the corridor, he had seen water pouring through all the doors. My question is, your report proposes that the visor accounts for this force, and I'm not here to tell you otherwise. But the Estonia weighed almost 10,000 tons. The visor weighed 65. It was to a man what a bag of flour weighs. So how could its gradual detachment have thrown people from their bunks and created the kind of terror that these survivors describe?
put your
I can take.
Yeah. They tell their stories and their testimonies. They differ somewhat, but it is no doubt that a 60-ton piece of metal falling into the forward part of the hull would cause a tremendous sound that would be spread all along the vessel. It's metal, it's the hull, and one piece of hull being hit by this would be heard all over the vessel. Then the details I couldn't say, but it has happened. It has happened to me that I have fallen out of my bunk when I have been on a vessel in heavy seas. And so I'm not surprised at all that that has happened to some passengers here or survivors. But we have the conclusion that the sounds, and what we have done now here is based upon the interviews of these 68 people. And we conclude that what they have told us during the interviews is congruent with how we describe that the accident happened.
Thank you, Jürgen. Do you, Tari, wish to add to that?
Yeah, I would add from the calculational side. So there was a collision with the metallic object, and that object was a 68-ton visor, what the vessel hit, as you can see in that image. Our contractor, Tallinn University of Technology, has also assessed that whether it would be felt, this kind of collision that creates such a deformation on the bow visor, and they have concluded that this collision is possible to feel as an impact or a vibration spreading to the structure, and it's also confirmed by the calculations, and this study will also be published together with our final report today, so you can have a look on that question from this report as well.
Just on the calculations, I won't take up any more of your time, but just to say on the calculations, Tari, there is an extraordinary amount of damage, as you've shown on the starboard side. Huge holes, 4 meters square, fully ruptured fender bar, deformations 25 meters apart, protruding pieces of steel bent outwards from the vessel. I'd love to know what you think of this new report in the past week by Swedish naval experts, which has calculated that at least 110 megajoules of energy was required to create this much damage. In 1994, the seafloor around the Estonia was described as consisting, and I quote, of very soft clay. You now say that a protruding ridge of bedrock caused the damage, but the report by these Swedish technical experts says that the force created by the Estonia falling onto the seafloor is nowhere near sufficient to create 110 megajoules of energy, because the Estonia initially falls onto its stern, and that absorbs much of the ship's energy. So what calculations do you have that show that that is incorrect, and that contact with the sea bottom created enough energy to account for the extraordinary damage we see on the starboard side? Because I can see visualizations, but do we have the formulas that go with that?
So I will start from the bedrock. As I told before, in 1994, when this survey was made, which is referred to, the wreck itself was resting on top of this bedrock, so it was not visible in 1994. So any samples taken in 1994, it's very logical that they were taken from the northward side of the wreck where there is a soft sediment, so there is no conflict in there. We have used the best available configuration of the seabed for the calculations. This calculation, which you see on the screen at the moment, is not just illustration, but it's a result of the finite element method, which is often used for such contacts and collisions, largely used in aviation, engineering, and so some other fields. So this is the state-of-the-art method for calculating such deformations. And as I said it before, the same image you can see on the screen, there is no descent movement of the wreck for creating this damage in here. It's just the vessel own weight, which is applied when the vessel rests on this uneven seabed surface. So there is no need for any movement, inertia, or acceleration for that. It's the vessel own static weight which could create such deformation, which is seen in here together with the bedrock formation and here without the bedrock formation.
How much energy is required to do that, or is it not relevant?
The energy is not used in that calculation. This calculation uses the ship own weight, which is approximately 10,000 plus tons.
May I add that the JIC report from 1997 actually mentions that there is a firm bottom of till under the clay, which is in contact with the vessel, most likely, it says.
Thank you. I think there was a question in the front row, the lady on the left. Did you have a question yet? Yeah, please.
Marie Garell, TV3 Estonia. Was there any explanation why they didn't interview the 3 persons in 1994?
We don't really know, and we will not go into to explain things that JIC did or did not.
Thank you. Any other questions in the audience here? Yes, please.
Niilo Simojoki, Finnish news agency STT. You mentioned that Estonia is the most investigated wreck in the world. Would you now say that you have exhausted all avenues, or is there a possibility for returning here in a few years that something new has become available in some document or in some filmings after the wreck has shifted further, or are we done in that regard?
Would you like to take that one, Jonas?
I hope that we are done from our perspective, even if there are, of course, people who are have been involved in this accident that will not let it go yet. We think that the vessel will continue to be deformed on the bottom with the time. So there will probably be more damage or deformations with time when the structure gets even weaker under the conditions that you can find there at the bottom. But from our point, we think that we are done, and the data that we have from these surveys will be available so that researchers can continue, if they want, to use the data that we have.
Thank you. I don't see any hands here. Do we have questions online? Not sure that.
Can I ask another one?
Can we please, I'd like to take first, I think we have Susanna. Yes, I think you can unmute your mic now.
Thank you so much for letting me in now. I have to Mr. Rosipu also the question from Mr. Lamb, which is the same. Can we see your mathematical calculations from what you are talking about, the 10,000 tons? Can we see your calculations?
Yes, you will have the access to the report or even appendix to the 2023 report from Tallinn University of Technology, where this same calculation is included and the reports presented there. So it will be available, the calculation methods and the results.
Thank you so much. I also have a question for Mr. Bäckstrand. You said that the material will be preserved for further possible investigations in the future. Will the extended interviews from the survivors be preserved in their wholeness for people to access them for research or other purposes? Can you testify yes or no on that question?
The interviews with survivors that we have done in Sweden, I can respond to that. They are transcribed and will be preserved in written form. The sound files that we have used during the interviews will not be preserved, but the full text of the interviews will be preserved. It will be available for the witness itself, and they will have a say in the question about confidentiality for them.
But as a general rule, open for research?
Well, it's a confidential interview in order to protect the witness, and they will have a say in how they want to go further on with that. But they will be preserved, indeed.
Thank you. I will take, I think, Lars Borinas. Apologies if I didn't get that correct. You can unmute, I think.
That's quite enough on my name. The BMTIG group presented a quantitative and verifiable and reproducible analysis which shows that there was a tremendous amount of energy needed to create these holes. You say that they could be created by the ship just lying on the bedrock. It seems to be an enormous difference between these two conclusions, which an amateur and most people cannot judge which is correct and which is false, because one of them must be false. So I will ask you, are you willing, from your group, to enter an official dialogue with the BMTIG group on this topic?
Who wants to take that one on? Do we want to take that one on? Yeah, Tauri, please.
I can start. So we have used the best available technology and calculation methods available. We are confident that those present the reality. We are aware of that there are some alternative calculations circulating. We probably will familiarize with them, but eventually we are not going to check every calculation which will be represented to us in the future, as we have used our methods and those are considered reliable.
But my question was, are you willing to enter an official dialogue with the BMTIG group on this topic to sort out who is wrong and who is right? Who is right?
I don't know what you mean with an official dialogue. This is a group that has presented an alternative report the other week. It consists of people that have been speculating in different theories through the years. I don't really know. We can see that they have not used the facts that we have presented from the work that we have done. They have some facts from '94. We are, of course, prepared to talk with them if they want, but under which conditions, that's something for the future to show.
Why is it? Why can you not say now that you will officially enter into
I don't understand what you mean with officially, if that means that you want us in a TV studio or what you mean. We are, of course, prepared to talk with them if they want to talk to us.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions? I don't see any hands raised online. Okay, and we have, yes, Mr. Lambert.
Sorry, thank you. Is this working again? I just want to be clear for those watching and for also you guys on the committee about what is known and what is theorized. Because of course in this work you have to make some theories. We don't have evidence for everything. But of course, one of the crucial points here is the ramp opening. We have testimony from the engine control room suggesting that, not even suggesting, stating that the ramp was in a closed position once the accident had begun, once water had already reached the lower decks. That comes from Margus Treyu and Henrik Salast and the guys in the engine control room, as everyone following this story will know. That's a crucial bit of evidence because it suggests that water must have entered the ship in some other way and got down to the lower car decks very quickly. How otherwise has water got through this ramp, which is only leaking? Now, I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know, but I want to understand where the conviction comes from that the ramp definitely opened, because, as I say, the only eyewitness testimony we have is that it was in a closed position.
Tauri, do you want to?
And finally, Tauri, how does the water get below down to deck 1 so quickly? Part of the same question. Thank you.
So the ramp has confirmed to be fully open according to the physical evidence. The damage underside the ramp when it collides with the forepeak deck under it and the bulbous bow. I don't want to consider which is more reliable evidence and which is not, but the physical evidence in any case is more reliable than a witness statement. I don't want to say that the witness is wrong. It is also stated that large quantities of water flooded the car deck, even that the camera looking to the bow ramp was splashed with water. So there are different witness statements, but the physical evidence confirms the damage of the ramp, confirms that it has been fully open. How the water could get below the car deck? First of all, the sliding doors of the car deck, and then when the vessel was already on site, the ventilation openings. As I said, after the turn, the water ingress from the bow entrance was reduced due to the relative direction of the sea waves. So there was so-called plateau in the heel development where the water could get down below the car deck and the air entrapped outside from the another side of the ventilation channels. And it doesn't mean that all the compartments of the down below the car deck need to be flooded to sink the vessel. So most probably there were compartments that had entrapped air inside them, but they were not sufficient to hold the vessel floating. The entrapped air is also confirmed by the flat bottom buckling deformation, which shows that there have been entrapped air there, and the internal structure had been collapsed under the water pressure from both sides. So calculations made in 2000s and calculations made now in 2025 confirm that there is no need for extra opening in underwater hull of the vessel to sink it in such a time frame and with such a heel and trim development.
Thank you, Tauri. We have already exceeded our time frame by 20 minutes, so I think we will end our press briefing here. Thank you very much for being with us today. The report has been published in English, at least on the Estonian side. We are still pending translations. That might take some time. The press release has been distributed at 11 a.m. this morning, Estonian time. You have probably received it, and it has been published at least on all of our websites, I guess. With that, thank you very much. I wish you all peaceful holidays and a good continuation for the week. Thank you.